Are you looking for joy, peace, and a life filled with fulfillment and purpose? Are you wanting to stay aligned in your vortex no matter what's going on around you? Are you ready to live the life that you were meant to live? An extraordinary life?
Welcome to Journey into the Vortex, where metaphysics meets real life. I am Mary Roseman, joined by my co-hosts Marcella Nitschke and Heather Wells. We are three ordinary women living extraordinary lives. Through our personal quests and years of deep exploration into the realms of metaphysics, we have seen our lives transformed and turned to extraordinary experiences. And we have joyfully embraced the calling to share all these amazing teachings and tools with you, that you may also experience the magic and wonder of a completely different way of being in the world.
Our purpose is to present to you the different paths we have explored throughout all of these years. We will have discussions on the different modalities, the different practices, the different teachers, and we will also share how we have applied these specific principles and tools in our lives, as well as our personal stories of how we have seen our lives transformed in really amazing ways.
Welcome to today's podcast. We're thrilled that you're here today, and our subject is life without metaphysics. And I can clearly remember it wasn't so long ago when I didn't have metaphysics or this way of thinking in my life. And it was more about life doing me than me doing life, right?
Right.
And I felt like a victim, and drug along, and I didn't feel like I had any power whatsoever in my choices. I felt doomed.
Yeah. So not having the awareness of metaphysics, going through those motions day to day without realizing that there actually is a higher power that we can tap into and really create the life we want to live.
Right.
And the moments and the whether it's never too big or too small. But going back to what is it like for people or for us at some point in our life where we didn't have the awareness of metaphysics in our life.
Well, this morning, that makes me think of this. I was listening to this YouTube video in Spanish, and it was about the departed, like how to. The topic, I think, was how to cope with the death of a loved one. But the conversation was the interviewer asked the person they were interviewing. So what are they dead? The people who have passed away, are they dead? Or the question was, are they dead people? And he said, dead people? Yeah, I see them all the time. So it was kind of like, what? Well, he said, yep, I see them all the time. There's so many people, in fact, most of them walking around empty of life, like lifeless. They are not awakened. They are like people who are they are in their bodies and they're moving, but it's as if they were dead because they have no awareness.
They're saying like actual human beings, not like souls. So when he's looking, he has the vision to look at actual human souls or human people walking this earth.
And that was the funny thing about this, because the interviewer was talking about the departed. Yeah. And he was talking, no, I see dead people all the time. Really?
Oh my gosh.
He said, there's people walking around.
Have no idea. They have no idea.
No clue. And they're like Mary said, life is living. What is it? Life is coming to them, or life is living them.
Life was doing me.
Yeah.
I wasn't doing life.
Yeah.
And that is fascinating. And yes, I would say I was participating for many years as a walking dead. And, it's just a matter of your programming and overcoming it. Right. And I just grew up in what I didn't realize was a negative household. And everybody was working and doing their best, but they didn't have that purview, if you will, of things that were going to work out.
Yeah.
You know, they just, that bill came, and before they even opened it, they felt doomed. Or, to this day, I can kind of panic if I have car issues because when I was a teenager or growing up, when anything happened like that, it was just my father would go off the deep end. And he would just, oh my gosh, instead of taking it as an opportunity to show me how to overcome or how to take care of this, he just felt victimized. He just, oh, what next? That was his attitude. And so I can still get triggered by that, even after 30 some odd years of marriage, and my husband never reacts that way. He's Johnny on the spot. Let's see what we can do,
So do you think some people are, I would say, like, personally, I wasn't born awakened to this light, to this metaphysics, but I would say I just have this optimistic viewpoint on life that I don't know where, if this is, I always laugh like I'm a Sagittarius.
You're optimistic about what?
Just life. Like, I don't see the glass. I don't see the, like you said, that
it wasn't beaten out of you.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm an optimistic person.
Yeah.
I think I always have been. But at some point, it was just beaten out of me. And then when I had a nervous breakdown and I'm going through my journey the way I was, and the Course in Miracles was handed to me, I had a new way, a new purview, or a new lens in which to see life. And it took years to overcome, and sometimes I still am triggered. But the thing is, I know now I will never have a nervous breakdown again. I just know.
I saw something the other day, like, as a baby, when a baby is born, they're born free. Freedom.
Right.
And, and then 5 minutes, somebody's telling them what their name is, what their religion is, what their thoughts are, what their beliefs are. And that soul is no longer free. Until you wake up again, I guess, until you realize. But it does make sense of...
Right. And optimism is an energy, is it not?
Yeah.
And
I
so
feel like it is.
If you have a negative type of energy that you're around 24/7 and you're inundated, then the beloved or the individual doesn't realize their power to change this.
Yeah.
They don't. They just become overwhelmed with life,
But not necessarily. I remember my mom being a very negative, kind of like, not depressed, because I look at her life, right? She didn't have to work. In Lima, where I grew up, you have cooks, you have maids, you have gardeners, you have drivers, you have everything. So you don't, and she didn't work. So she just sat there and she would complain about having to go to a dinner party or things like that. Not really.
And she wasn't, like, when you say that in Lima, that was how it was for you. But most of the people did, probably the population of Lima, which is huge.
Well, there's several. There's.
So she's complaining of her life, but think about the people that were in your household every day doing the work and everything.
And not to judge her, right? Because maybe that's why she didn't have purpose. And she wasn't really a hands-on mom. I never really remember sitting and doing homework. Well, maybe when I was little, I don't know. But the point is that I remember this. It's interesting how certain memories you have, that I would sit at night and say, "Hey, Mom, how about tomorrow we go up and play a game of badminton at the club, and then we have lunch, and then we can do all these things. We're gonna go to the beach. It's gonna be nice." Kind of trying to lift her up. And I was probably 7 years old. And so I don't know, for some reason, like you said, optimism could be an energy we're born with. Again, I don't think that one is better than another. We all have contracts, and we all sign up for a specific experience.
Right.
But I don't know, and this is something, to wonder why sometimes you get affected by the negativity around you, or sometimes you hate, right? In my case, I ended up just, when I was old enough that I didn't have to hang out with my mom, I didn't. I hung out with my friends.
Yeah. And so you're right. You overcame your programming. You know, and I feel like, I don't know about you, but remember the nugget that she threw us with that one book that she found and she read? I feel like in a way that was kind of your lifesaver. That was never in my space, ever. My rigid Catholic upbringing and just the box and my environment that I was in. And I could see, I was in an incredible city, which was Austin. And so once I'm old enough to get out and experience other things, and I know, mum's the word, you don't share anything in the home front with what you're looking at or reading or experiencing. But still, and we've talked about this before, there's 4 kids, siblings of all of us together, right? But each one of us will have a different purview and a different experience being raised by the parents that we had. So each beloved comes in, like you said, with a contract or a curriculum. And we can't explain why someone's more affected by, you can't explain that, but that's their experience.
And this may be a little out there for new listeners, but it may also have to do, like, past lives, speaking of past lives, what kind of relationship you had with your mom. Maybe you had you were the mom, maybe, who knows. And so that can also affect the dynamics of the current experience. And this is really out there, and we'll talk about that I guess in a different episode about how the possibility that really when we sign contracts, the people that are around us are not have been with that. We travel in soul groups, and there's possibility. Nobody knows, but
But the importance is with metaphysics. So if you know now, let's just say you're having issues with your mom, and you cannot figure out what it's gone beyond the human realm of this particular lifetime or of this experience. And you go explore and you find out, well, y'all are living out some karma from another lifetime. The applications of metaphysics gives you something to go on, and you're not continuing to bang your head or take everything so personal.
I feel like that is metaphysics to me. It's the bigger. It's
really know who you are, who we are. Right?
Yeah, it's just it's tapping into, because we talked about metaphysics as a whole is a buffet. There's so many aspects to it, but I think you're right. Instead of feeling like you're stuck in your whatever situation you're in, whatever, like you've used the example being at the DMV, or you're in your car, or you're having your world seems really small, or you're having in an abusive relationship, but metaphysics makes you see like the power that there is to change any circumstance. But I don't know, and just the concept of everything that is around us, we create it. Nothing comes to us, nobody comes to us unless we are really attracting, resonating. For some reason we are manifesting that. So that it gives you power back. When we're talking about like life without metaphysics and life with, so if we all feel like we're kind of every day living a life with metaphysics, and again, there's no perfect, but I always try to be aware. It's a perception. It's being aware of situations. But like, what are some examples that you personally, or or people that you are around that are not living life with the awareness of metaphysics? Because metaphysics happens regardless, right? Good or bad, you have created whatever situation you're in.
Right.
But some people
you're either aware or you're not.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, I think it must be miserable to live life without that awareness.
Well,
can't imagine.
Here's a funny story. So last week, I was traveling with some friends, and we were in the airport. And one of my friends, I would kind of say she does not live a life with the awareness of metaphysics. So we're running to the airport. I should say I'm not. I know we're going to be there right on time. I'm not. There's not 1 ounce of me that is concerned, and she is complaining, and we're gonna, she's just so, which I'm looking at her going, okay, you're gonna be happening. So we have to go through security, and it's just the two of us. And she's like, I have TSA. I'm gonna, so, and I don't. And all she's talking about is complaining, and we're gonna be late, and all this. So the people at the airport in Denver say, okay, well, if you go downstairs, there's a lane for regular regular security, and then that's where TSA is. If I did not get through the line, I'm saying 15 to 20 minutes before she did. Through regular security. And I'm just like,
you just knew.
I just knew. And then that made her even more mad because TSA took forever, and she pays for that, for God's sakes, and then she's calling people complaining how, I can't believe I paid for TSA. I'm just going, life without metaphysical awareness. But she's also created exactly those obstacles in her way. Like the whole time she's setting this up, where in my mind, I'm like, we're going to be fine. We're going to get right through. There's not going to be any block.
I'm going to piggyback on her Heather's story, and I'm going to say, so I had a similar experience going to Aruba, and I started getting frustrated, and so I started breathing and looking around. And I have this friend, Gidget, and it just seems like she can part the Red Sea wherever she went. And so I took a breath, and I thought, she's in my space for a purpose. I'm following this woman. And I piggybacked on her energy. I checked my energy at the door, and I piggybacked on her energy because she was making it happen with this flow. And I just felt like with TSA, I was running into one after, and it just, I just watched miraculously how we got right into the right line, and we flowed through. And that had been after Jim and I had already waited 10 minutes because we're trying to follow the rules or do whatever. And then they just floated in, and it's like, I'm getting out of line and I'm going to go follow them. And they found a totally different line way up that nobody knew anything about, that only had 2 other people in. And it's like, really?
I truly believe in the universe, there's a flow. And when you're in that flow, there are no blocks.
Right.
Or if there are, it's just a redirection.
That's what I was going to say. You just let go too, because sometimes that delay has a purpose.
Yeah.
That is even better than catching that plane or getting on time to your destination.
Be aware of that, and don't fight. I use it in my work a lot. I tell clients this all the time. Like, if it's meant to be, because I sell houses, it will be easy. I promise you. Your house, but if we start getting all these blocks, I know it may be time to, either that's not
the path.
But I mean, there is no fail when you are on the right flow.
Yeah.
There is no fail. Like, it just feels, and I think metaphysics, and there's a feeling. You just have that feeling when life is going smooth. But what people don't understand is it can be that way. I think it could be that way all the time.
And everything,
But as humans, we're always practicing it. So
Right.
Well, I would like to mention that also another aspect of that. Those are like, nice synchronicities and flow and knowing. When you know something and you have the right vibe, no question, you are in the right path, no matter what route it takes. But say about situations also, I think that the deepest, the most value I find in being aware of metaphysical understanding is when things happen in life that are not what you were expecting, that are causing tension, that seem to be bad things, right?
Right.
Or maybe, there's also the realm of thought, but say the realm of circumstances, right? Like something happens, and if you don't understand it, if you don't have that awareness, and you don't see you don't trust that there's a purpose and there is a solution, and it's going to be great if you just let go and let God, then it can be miserable because you resist, you start kicking and screaming, and living like that is, in the first place, it must be really like miserable. But on the other hand, you block away, you push away all the good things that really can happen to you. I don't know if you want to bring an example. I have.
Well, I was
many
saying that. I was like, I feel
say.
like what we're talking about, Mary, is just like everyday little surface stuff. But like, what about when big stuff? I mean, Marcella, like Ian's diagnosis or Greg getting sick. I mean, those are big things where really, I don't want to say test where you had no choice but to kind of let go, but and let God, because.
Well, with Ian, I kicked and screamed for a little while. So my son, I don't know if I've shared this before in other podcasts, but my son has autism. He was born with a genetic disorder and later diagnosed with autism. So it was a struggle since day one. It was hard. But that's what prompted me, I think, to even get back into these teachings and just find an answer. And looking for that answer 21 years ago, it was like one after another revelation of amazing awareness that just like today, I don't worry about his diagnosis. I don't know if I would even change it if I could, because it had a purpose, and I see that purpose, and I see the magnificence of the universe just playing this story and helping. Not just myself, but I think a lot of people around Ian just like really shift paradigms, completely question. Hey, this is there. It kind of makes you want to look at things very differently,
right?
And it's just like it's big, right?
And so, like for Ian, I mean, and I know we've had this discussion, but you're right. Not only how he affected you and your outlook, but how he affects his community and everything else, and talk about somebody, Ian, as a soul that signed up at a soul level to be a teacher to so many, I mean.
And that's how I see him.
Yeah.
He is definitely, he came here with a purpose, not a great purpose, an amazing purpose that I don't think I still completely, because every time, it just keeps expanding.
And it's interesting, it's like, how's it going to continue? Because there's still big things in store.
Yeah, and there are a lot of souls. Not to say that autism. I don't want to make any judgments regarding people with disabilities, because there is a lot of autism happening lately. But who knows? Maybe that's for us to really shift our paradigms. Maybe these are souls that say, "Hey, we're going to be different." Because we're going to break your paradigms. We're going to make you look at life in a different way. And I think for many families who have a child with a disability, it completely you have no choice, or you end up being
the family either rallies or they fall apart.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's a big catalyst. I don't know. Like again, there's so many things that we cannot yet understand, but that's a big example of how metaphysics.
How I just can't imagine if you didn't have.
Yeah,
you end up in the loony bin like I did.
I mean,
that's what happens.
Some people need something really big to wake them up.
Up. Absolutely. Yeah.
But also sometimes I and again, there's a fine line between realizing how blessed we are to have discovered this, and there's a line in judging other people's lives. But sometimes friends just like, they would tell you, like, hey, I am just down, and you see them always like tired. I'm like, okay, there's vacation, they're happy, and then they come from vacation, they're sad. Or let's go shopping, they're happy, and then they're sad. It's like kind of numbing.
They're always looking for that next fix.
Yeah, numbing themselves with things, and that's not a life. A life is when you really wake up, like, yeah, like jump out of bed. I am happy. I can say I jump out of bed every morning.
I do too.
I'm just excited about the day.
Even the days where I have nothing planned.
Yeah,
it still like makes me,
Yeah, exactly. So isn't that the right of every human? Isn't that the right of every soul? To just really, hey, you don't have to be like that. There is another way to look at life. There is so much energy to tap into, joy, peace, that doesn't come from controlling outside circumstances. It comes from connection, from love, right?
Right.
I think that's huge.
And I think I always go back to, I mean, there's two choices. It's love or fear, right? Like there's no middle ground. So anything that happens, you choose.
Anything that is not bliss is hell.
Yeah.
But the hell that you created, right?
Right.
What you really, and you can always change your mind, and you can always really recreate.
You can't. That's on a dime. I mean, it's so easy to shift and change.
So let's give an example, okay? All right. So Heather has pointed out to us that your purview or your perception or reaction to life is either one from love or one out of fear. And so Marcella had this child, and don't know if I'm maybe initially there was fear.
Oh yeah, like I said, I did kick and scream for her.
Yeah, and then she decided enough was enough, and she decided to choose out of love. It's that basic. It's that simple, right?
Or ask, because in my desperation, I have asked. I asked the God that I believed at that time. I said, rescue me, save me, give me an answer. That's enough for the universe to inundate you with ways to, and it came like. Of course, I was already aware of, I had already practiced some of the metaphysical teachings, and somewhere I was like, hey, I know there's purpose, I know this will, I know I'll make sense of this. But still, I was like kind of not really living metaphysics in my life, the awareness in my life. I was excited about our new house. We had just moved here. Oh, I'm pregnant, finally. So everything was like the worldly things, right? And then you walk away in like, there's an expression in English, like when your victories, you rest on your victories. You feel so comfortable that you're just like, forget about digging. There's no reason, right? Everything is perfect here, right? I love the man I married. I'm pregnant. We just moved into a new house. Everything was great, and then you're faced with this, right? So it was like I was completely going not in the wrong direction, but I was completely being up here when I was losing the real, was
substance
really important.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
Okay, so that's cool. And at what point did you find hope? See, that's what I'm just feeling that listener going, oh, this is all wonderful, and y'all are saying, but get real specific with the particulars. How would you help another beloved come into this reality? What would you suggest?
Well, I think that when you realize that who we really are,
right,
like any metaphysical or spiritual teacher, but if you really, really, really pay attention, it will show you that the things you think that will make you happy are not really what you're looking for.
Right.
We come here looking to heal that separation, to know that we are one with the Creator and that we can co-create whatever we want. And so once you're aware of that, I think that awareness coupled with a practice of meditation, to me was a Course in Miracles. Every time I sat here with my Course in Miracles, read and meditated, I don't know what it was, but I got up happy, like full of it was a completely different mindset. It was completely different,
right?
And it was a process. It was a 20-year process, but I must say the very first lessons, the very first times
the
that
miracles.
I sat, the liberation was huge. So that was enough to just get me super excited, and then everybody around you starts being excited because you bring that into your like to your family circle, you bring it to work, everywhere, and so everything
contagious.
Life takes a different vibe. It's just like and even approaching the interventions for Ian, because I tried everything, and I don't regret. They all helped him, but you do it with a sense of not desperation, but of like, hey, let's see how this helps, or let's see how this, and even that was a blessing, because I would have not discovered the magic or the blessing of gluten-free, dairy-free diet, food coloring, everything that I was a regular eater. I was eating, I was going to the grocery store, making dinner, like Americans do, because I had moved here and I learned to cook here, and I didn't know any better. And if it were not for Ian, I probably will be dealing with all kinds of things that, women my age would be dealing with.
Right.
And yet, when I went gluten-free, I said, once gluten-free, always gluten-free. Dairy, oh my God, what a difference it makes. And like, all these things that just like one after another, and even the healing modalities like craniosacral therapy and all those Reiki, acupuncture, all those things that I would have never discovered if it were not because of this. So it brings health, it brings joy, it brings more awakening, because the more you know, the more you want to know, right? So it was
that's
beautiful
something.
journey.
So anybody that, if you could have the perspective, if when something alleged big happens in your life, or tragic or what, there's always going to be something. God is never going to leave you in that state. Like it's always there to bring something bigger and more.
Yes.
So my daughter was born, and immediately her diagnosis was slapped, failure to thrive, on her. And I'm probably 2 years into metaphysics, but I'm not 100% committed. Okay, and she had been at home for 2 weeks, and she would not suck. She would not breastfeed, and I'm trying, and I get a little bit of nourishment in her. Well, one day I'm just holding her, and I'm looking, and I've done all my praying, I've done my rosaries, I've consulted with yada yada yada. And I just remember looking over, and I saw Love is Letting Go of Fear and Course in Miracles. And I hadn't picked up the book probably in months, because I'm just this tired mother, right? And I just took a breath, and I said, God, you gave this child to me for a purpose. Now, what is it that I'm not doing, or guide me to help this little baby? And I heard really clearly, stop, put your pride aside. This child is not going to breastfeed. Go make her formula. So I put the baby down. I go in there, and as I'm making the formula, I'm crying, because I feel so guilty that she's not going to get all the, nutrients that she needs and everything. And I go in there, and I put the bottle in her mouth, and she won't suck. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So I immediately I packed her up. I took her to the doctor. No appointment, whatever, but I was like, no. She, she hasn't eaten in 2 days. I don't think enough. I need you. And so the doctor tried it. So immediately he sends me to Children's Mercy. Anyway, I was in the medical yada, 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 and I got no help. And we walked out of there so frustrated, and she wasn't sucking any more than normal. And so I took her home, and my husband went, and we were using Playtex things, and he went and got new nipples, and he even poked bigger holes through it. And we were teaching her how to suck, right? So we did this on our own. Well, she stopped. 2 days were going great. Now she stopped sucking. So I'm sitting there and I'm holding her, and I'm like, thank you for all your help, universe, but what now? And the universe told this Texas girl who was layered with lots of clothing at the time, and it was freezing, it was in January, take everything off that baby but the diaper, take her out on the deck and feed her. Who would do that? That was so against my maternal instincts. It was like 0 degrees with snow out there.
Really?
Yes. I strip her down, I take her out, and y'all, she just kind of relaxed and fell into the temperature. And I'm holding her and I'm shivering, and I'm like, okay. And so I start, and she starts feeding, and she is inhaling the formula as fast as she can. I have to make her slow
taking
down.
your clothes off and just breastfeed her.
Jim's watching me going, you're crazy. I'm just gonna, and we're both just amazed. So he goes and he arranges it to be cozy out there so that I can at least have
She wanted to be a naked baby.
She did.
Where was she in a previous life?
Good question.
She's not from Texas.
But all of this was, how do you get these type of downloads if you're not aligned? I had to get over, okay, remember we said your purview is either that of love or of fear. What did I do when it all happened? I didn't listen to squat when I found out she wasn't sucking. I packed that baby up and I took her to the doctors. I took her to the people who should know what to do, right? I, instead of trusting and sitting there, I'm the chosen one for this baby.
So that kind of brings me to, there's prayer. Mm-hmm. And then there's, I believe, prayer is kind of the asking, and then meditation is the receiving, the silence, the quiet, and let the answers come to you, right? Mm-hmm. How concerned are we, or people are so connected to everything right now? Are people, that's why I think more than ever, like meditation and silence and quiet is so important to really tap in to the universe, the metaphysic, to God, to the higher power. I mean, I think when you do have these questions,
I think it's crucial, and I think I don't want to judge any religion, but I was Catholic, and most of my prayer at the first years were Catholic way. Mm-hmm. And when I think back, when you pray, you just ask, you keep asking.
It's almost like desperation.
Exactly, and it's almost like you're already asking. You're asking.
It's fear and desperation. Like,
yes,
and you don't.
You're petitioning to the universe, to God, I want it my way. Please, please, please.
Like, first of all, you are not letting any way to the answers to come to you, right?
Right, because you're not listening. You're not receiving. You're not. I would. What's the old? There was the thing about like God and the lifeboats, right? Like, God save me, please, 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 and then then a boat, like all these things show up, and God's like, I sent you everything. You just weren't receiving. You weren't.
And the other thing is gratitude. One thing that I discovered, I think it was later. I don't know why I wasn't becoming like aware of the importance of gratitude. Gratitude. One of spiritual teachers that I like says is the ultimate state of receivership. And I think it is, because when you are grateful, you are open, you are in love, you're not in fear, and you are really telling the universe, I know I have already, that answer is already coming my way, and you know it.
I kind of felt like when I first, woke up or whatever, that was one of the first things I heard was like gratitude, like that. It starts just so simple. If you can't do anything else, be grateful that you woke up this morning. You can be grateful for
all the things, for anything. Just like start small, and then it's amazing how how you open up to all the good when you are grateful.
Yeah, and even like if I go and walk in nature, I mean, sometimes I listen to things, sometimes I don't. I just like to walk and just look. I'm in awe. Like, I'm so grateful for this fresh air and the sun and the trees. That, I mean, it's almost amazing if you could just get to that level of gratitude.
Yep.
And it's not untangible. Okay, so let's just say you're having the worst day of your life, right? And it's not cutting your feelings off. We want you, if there's sadness, feel the sadness. But at the same time, realize you're alive. You're breathing. Look at the blessings around you and start making the list. Because everything is energy. And if you let the density of sadness, of anger, of bitterness take you down without neutralizing it with the gratitude, then that's what you're just going to get more and more and more of the fear. And so that's why it's so important to insert the gratitude part of this into your life. Make it, when you get up in the morning, list 5 things that you're grateful for. Or before you go to bed, list 5 things that you're grateful for. And really marinate in this. Right? It changes the tone.
It does. Then you brought up something important, that is, do not deny your emotions either.
Right.
Because the point is not to ignore when we are worried, when we're sad,
right,
but to look at them, like embrace your fears and look at them. What are they trying to tell you? And from that point, at that level, start asking. First of all, remind you of your power. Once you know your power, there's nothing that can really bring you down for very long. You can be sad or, upset about things. Accept that, and then from there lift.
I always say, yes, experience it, feel it, but don't sit in it for very long. A day, 2, but don't make that your habit and that your story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But don't deny it, because usually when you have those feelings, they're
trying to tell you something. They're trying to tell you always. The Course in Miracles says, underneath any feeling of sadness or depression or when your mood is not, is an unforgiven thought. And what it calls an unforgiven thought is a thought of fear that it has slipped by, and it's creating all these these problems or these emotions. It's bringing you down. It's lowering your vibe, and you have to find it, or at least you have to acknowledge it and let it come up so that you can let it go, because I think that's really important to heal any of those calls for love, and they're easy to heal. I mean, I understand that there are people who struggle with depression and I cannot speak because maybe I had felt depression when I was a teenager, a little bit here and there, but nothing really that would, like some people do. Mm-hmm. But all metaphysical teachings teach you that really it's an underlying thought that has been let go past. It's there, and it's creating all this ugliness around in your vibration. So
I'm going to give you a real simple example of what we're talking about. And if you haven't seen the movie Sweet Home Alabama, watch it.
It's just a lighthearted,
And when, I can't remember the name of the characters, I'm sorry, but when the main character is deserting or leaving her fiancé at the altar, like she is walking off, she's telling him, I'm sorry, but I don't love you. And he's got all of his family there, all of his friends, and she just says, it's just not right. Does he lose his mind? No. He goes. He takes a breath. He looks at her. And he's like, wow, so this is how this feels. And then he thanks her and he walks off. He felt the feeling. He acknowledged it. but he didn't camp out in it. And see, we were not ever meant to dwell and camp out on our feelings and our emotions. We were meant to experience them. We were meant to not have them do us, but us do them. Do you see? I'm trying to say nothing is meant to take you down this rabbit hole or to keep you hanging on to something that happened to you at 2 years old, and here you are in your 60s and you're still being triggered by spilled milk or something. It was never meant for that to happen. So that is what Marcella is trying to say, right? Acknowledge the feeling, but do not camp out in it. Now, that may be easier said than done, especially at the very beginning of this, and I never went to traditional therapists over this. I always chose coaches. And there's a lot of programs out there where you can get in touch with what the triggers are. And you can start practicing these principles every time you're upset about something. And then you can transcend this to where, ouch, that hurt. And it's gone. You experienced it, you've checked it off your box.
Because when people sit there too long, I think I don't want to discount people's, I don't want to be non-compassionate, but it becomes your story and your habit. And then I think it becomes harder to get out of that. Like the faster you can.
But that's what metaphysical awareness is, because if you really know the truth, you would never go that way.
Right.
If you really knew, hey, I created this. There's not so-and-so that was mean and I hate him. Or there's no this thing just now. There's no protesting against anything or anyone. Everything is here. Why do I create that? And so once you know that, I think your reaction to every situation changes. And also self-pity is out of the picture, because really you know your power as co-creator. And so and nothing, the energy of feeling a victim of something completely has no base, goes away.
So let's define co-creation. Let's zone in on that.
So metaphysical teachings teach us that we have a source, right? We call God, spirit, source, and we are beings that go way beyond the physical. We have a mind. We don't have a spirit. We are a spirit, let's put it that way, who has a mind and has a body. Now here we identify with this body, but our real essence is the spirit that we are. So once we realize that we are designed, or we were created by source, and source creates in its image. So we have the power to create whatever we really want. The thing is, how much awareness do we have, and how are we creating? Are we creating? Course in Miracles teaches that what we create or manifest at the conscious level comes from the subconscious, and the subconscious is fed either by what it calls miracles, which is alignment with love, knowing our true nature, trying to extend love, or by the needs, the distortioned needs that our ego has created, like, oh, we need this to be loved, we need this to be safe, we need this, so we are creating based on that, out of fear. So it goes either way. However, creation is always happening. We're always creating. We co-creators is when we are aware that we are creating. So we choose what we create. We don't just create for the unconscious fears, or we actually create from the awareness of, hey, this is what I want, and always trying to extend love. So that's the definition of being a co-creator.
And keeping in mind, we are actual spiritual beings. That is our essence. We are just here living a human experience.
And you are a co-creator. Period. Case closed. End of story. You are a co-creator. So what are you creating.
And that, yeah, let's end there and have fun with this life, right? You and I talk about this like joy, fun. I mean,
love.
Kind of don't take everything so seriously. Like
It really doesn't.
I love to play. Yeah, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we're
matter.
just here creating. We're just here having an experience.
So, to wrap it up, what would we tell our audience? I think it would be, go find who you truly are. What metaphysical teaching resonates with you. And I think meditation, because some people may say, so how do you know we are a spirit with a spiritual being living a human experience? Go meditate and you're going to know it. Because Course in Miracles talks about this thing called revelation. But once you access that state of consciousness of just pure silence and really, all you're going to find there is love.
Yeah.
That's all you're going to find in your true essence. And you're going to feel that love being your real essence. The body or the mind come second, and that's when you're really going to discover your spiritual nature.
So that's our challenge to our audience.
Yes. Open up to that idea.
Open up to that time. Really take the time.
And play with expecting good. Always trying to think again. Like if you have a fearful thought, think again. And what if this? And you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised how everything aligns for the best.
So let's give a couple challenges. Gratitude every day. Just start by writing three things you're grateful for. Get in that state of consciousness. Do meditation, even if it's 10-15 minutes in silence.
I would say 5 minutes.
5
whatever.
minutes, just in silence.
Yes. And it could be just a walk.
Yeah. You don't have to sit. You might have children running around. Just turn off things. Just turn it off and sit in silence and receive. And then what else?
So a good way to follow up to this for our next episode would be, how about we come and share our favorite, most dear spiritual practices, because we're telling them go find spiritual practice. Well, there are many, and we can talk about different spiritual practices that there are, teachings, and then we can share about our favorite.
Let's do it.
All right.
Okay.
So next week we will be back to journey into the vortex.
We hope you have enjoyed today's dialogue. Please do not hesitate to let us know if you have questions, suggestions, or simply want to connect. You can reach us through our website at journeyintothevortex.com, Facebook, or Instagram. We hope you will join us again as we continue this transformative journey into the vortex.